All right, I think we're live. Let me refresh my YouTube page. Hold on, it takes a second to catch up here. Come on, YouTube. You can do it. All right, there we go. Hi, everyone. I'm here with Jess.
Hey
Everyone say hi to
guys.
Jess. All right, who do we got in chat? Chat is flying already. Hi, Sugar
No
Butt,
kidding.
Leslie, Karen, Leah. Scrolling down. Rosie, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. AG, I hope you're doing well. Sam, nice to see you again. Stacy, Lisa, Kebs, Catnip. Oh, Catnip, we haven't talked in so long. How are you? I hope you're doing great. Hi, Danielle. All right, so we're gonna talk tonight. I miss you guys. I haven't had a chance to talk. Jess and I have been talking a little in Discord this week and a little few meetings with Rosie, but I want to talk to people. Jess, how are you doing? We haven't had a live in a long time. What's going on with you?
I'm good. I've been absolutely lazy this weekend. The weather's kind of dreary. My husband got a couple of days off, which isn't normal. So we played some games with the boys and have had family dinners, and I've shopped online too much. The usual.
We've been doing the same thing here. My husband had 2 days off from work in a row, which is almost unheard of. So
Right.
we had a nice weekend, but it's just gray and cold out and makes you just want to go bleh and not do anything. So
Yeah.
I've been hanging out in my jammies, playing Path of Exile, an ARPG game that I love. So that's all I've been doing this week. Now, the Vallow case. Let's might as well talk about this stuff so we can get it out of the way and talk about fun stuff. There's like almost nothing going on. It's so boring trying to watch this, but we have a couple filings. I'm going to put one on the screen so we can talk to everyone, get everyone up to date on the news before the next hearing, which is on the 17th of February. So here you go. Let me go back to StreamYard. Where'd Jess go? I lost Jess. 1 second. Oh, there she is. Are you back?
And yep, I hit a button I wasn't supposed to hit.
Yeah, I thought
Sorry.
I'd hit the button. I was like, oh
I
no, I
was
kicked her
closing
out.
out the comments and I just hit done. I was like, no, not done, not done. Okay.
All
You
right,
can
good.
read again.
I thought I accidentally kicked you out, so I did not.
Nope, it was me.
Hi, Andrew. Hi, Emily. How are you doing? I haven't talked to you in so long. I hope you're all doing well. Just catching up on chat. New people have joined. Hi, Green Eggs and Ham. Angel, nice to see you again. All right. So let's talk about this filing. This was filed by Mark Means. This is a motion to compel. You know that Mark Means and Rob Wood have been having a little back and forth about discovery. Now, what discovery means is any of the information that Rob Wood has that he's planning to use in the trial has to be turned over to the defense so that they can preview it and come up with their defense for all of it. And Mark Means is trying to get Rob Wood to send more discovery. Now, Rob Wood replied and said, I sent it all. And here it is. Look, you find it here, 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 and here. But that's not good enough. So this is what Mark Means said. I'm going to read it really quick. It's only a couple paragraphs, and then we'll talk about it. He says, comes now the defendant, Lori Noreen Vallow Daybell, by and through her attorney of record, Mark L. Means of Means Law Office, yada, yada, and states in further support of the motion to compel that on or about 1/14/21, the prosecution filed pleading entitled Discovery Disclosures. See attached. Okay, that was Rob Wood's statement. This pleading cites multiple addendums, video statements, recordings, jail phone calls, recordings, state witnesses, expert witnesses, examination and or tests, police reports, and the like. On or about 1/19/21, not 1/14 as identified by the prosecution, a hard drive with additional discovery records, documents, recordings, statements, phone calls, etc., was mailed to defense counsel Mr. John Pryor. But to date, no additional hard drive evidence has been provided to my office. So let me just change and get the second page of that. There's got to be a better way to do this. All right, there we go. This is another incident and action on the state to wrongfully withhold relevant and discoverable evidence in this matter with further obvious obstruction of the defense or defendant. So this is what Mark Means is saying. This is going to be heard in court on February 17th. What do you think of that so far, Jess?
Oh, I think they're still fighting over the sandbox. I don't know. I'm sick of here. I'm sick of seeing all these stupid filings because they can't get along.
Mm-hmm.
There's more headbutting between the lawyers than is going on in the case. It's getting
Yeah,
stupid.
I agree. Now, there's one thing that I'm questioning in this whole filing. If Rob Wood sent the hard drive with all the additional discovery to John Pryor, why did he not also send, I guess, a second version of it? They could have copied it to Mark Means, or was Pryor supposed to share it with Means, or what's going on there? I'm assuming that's going to be a big part of this hearing. Right, we're going to talk about
Yeah, that's
what is.
weird. I don't know why they wouldn't have just sent two copies. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yep. So he could have a little point there. If Rob Wood
yeah,
was supposed to have sent it to both of them, he could have a point. Does he have a point? We don't know, but we're going to
it's
hear about
just
that.
it's so like I don't care whose fault it is. I mean, Rob Wood could completely be being childish and like trying to push the button because he's angry at him or whatever because the last hearing. I don't know, but it's your taxpayer dollars going down the drain. Like that's my
Right.
point. This is a case that we are paying for, and they're wasting time over stuff that you know you're gonna have to give it to him anyway. If you didn't give it to him, you're gonna have to. So why waste everybody's time? It's
Agreed.
stupid.
This is a whole motion we didn't have to have.
Yep.
We should not even have to have a court date over this. So we're just going to have to wait and see what the judge says. It's possible Rob Wood did make a mistake because honestly, no matter what we think of Mark Means or Lori, he does have a right to this discovery. So,
Yeah, but I mean, if it was a simple mistake, really, you can't pick up a phone and say,
yep,
okay, I requested it. Did you send it? Yeah, you sent it. I never got it. Can we get another copy of that without it being a hearing?
right.
Like, if it's a simple mistake, surely to goodness we're not going to court over it.
Definitely. Now, another aspect of this that we have to talk about, not the discovery, but a second issue that has arisen over the last week or so. I'm sure most of us have seen it. Mark Means is applying or petitioning the court, I believe in Madison County, for Lori Vallow to get a cell phone in jail, but a limited use cell phone. So let me read through this real quick and then we can talk about it because people are kind of up in arms about this. So skip the first paragraph. Basically, Mark Means is saying that any of the defense counsel experts be admitted to meet with defendant uninterrupted, face to face, as deemed necessary by counsel and defendant. Number 2, the detention center be ordered to shut off video recordings or any other recording devices during privileged communications. Number 3, that at the expense of the defendant be provided a cellular telephone that is limited in its access to defense counsel. That's important. And number 4, finally, this matter be set for hearing forthwith to prevent further delays in defending this matter. Now, I have an opinion on this that may not be so popular, but before I go, what do you think about this?
Okay, doesn't she already have an iPad? Like, haven't we already established that she has an iPad in her cell?
We've heard that she has an iPad. I don't know why they can't use that, but
Why can't they do Zoom? I mean, if we're legitimately having hearings over Zoom, you're telling me you can't meet with your client over Zoom
that may
on
not
an
be a
iPad?
secure connection though because it's Wi-Fi. It runs through the
Mm.
prison's Wi-Fi. Now, all right, this is
What if
my,
that has a phone number attached to it?
but it would still be using the Wi-Fi, which means the prison could record it.
Mm.
Okay, now, whatever you think of Lori, I see somebody in chat yelling, no cell phone for Lori. We got to
Nah, it
understand
doesn't have anything
something.
to do with Lori. You have to kind of take her out of the situation. What if this was your uncle that's innocent in jail? I get it. I know you're going to say your
Mhm.
unpopular opinion is give it to her, and I actually agree. I
Yep,
do.
because we have to understand that we can't just toss our laws and rights out the window because we dislike the defendant. Okay, none of us like Lori, but every single person in jail has a right to privileged communications with their attorney, meaning privilege, meaning what's the word I'm looking for? Confidential.
Right.
All right. If any of you get arrested for jaywalking, you have a right to talk to your attorney privately with nobody overhearing you.
Yep.
Okay. That's the law. That's
And
the law.
we're dealing with a whole different ball of wax with COVID. It's not cut and dry. It's not, well, why has nobody ever used that? I mean, we are seeing all, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it. We're seeing all kinds of weird things come up that people haven't really thought about through COVID. And you want to take care of them on the front end rather than being appealed on the back end. And this is one of those big ones.
Yep. Now, normally, when someone's in jail, they have rooms where the defendant can meet with their attorney, where there are no cameras or recording devices. Okay. But because of COVID, they're not able to make use of those rooms. All right. So that is a problem. Okay, Lori and Mark Means and any single person in jail has the right to meet privately with their attorney. The jail needs to be able to provide that to them, but they haven't been. We heard Means bring this up back in the bond reduction hearing back in like February of last year. Okay, so that's the thing. Right? He's been dealing with this for almost a solid year now. Now, as far as getting a cell phone, that's an unusual step. However, we're taking a lot of unusual steps right now because of
Yeah.
COVID. And he does say that the cell phone be limited to only for her to contact him. So it's not like she
And
can, call
you
Chad
know,
or whoever.
there might even be a way to throw more rules on it. Like, if you're saying that she should have commute normally, no, if everything was normal, he would be scheduling meetings with her and coming to the jail. He's out of town from her, right? How far away is his office from where she's at?
He's
He's
like
not in,
four hours or so away.
right. So this isn't a let's jump in the car and go see Lori.
Yep.
So even if they said, you have to schedule these meetings, we will put her in a certain room with her cell phone for you to have a meeting with her for this amount of blocked out time, just like it would have been if you had come in to visit her. I
Right.
don't think he should have 24/7 access to her own cell phone
Mhm.
and vice versa. I don't think she should get to keep the cell phone. It should be taken away from her and put up until it's time for whatever. And if there's some kind of emergency meeting that needs to happen, he should have to call the warden or whoever schedules stuff for her. I don't think it should just be, full tilt. And I don't think she should get special treatment. If they think that this is a problem for her and any other cellmates have the same problem, they should be given the same one, you
Yep.
know?
Now, a lot of people are yelling in chat.
Yeah.
Calm down, take a deep breath. Okay. I'm not saying Lori deserves a cell phone because she's special. I'm not saying that at all.
No.
However, the jails, all of the jails need to come up with a way to allow the people in them to have access to their attorneys, private access. Okay. This is a law. It's your right. If any of you ever get arrested, you're going to want to avail yourself of this right. So we cannot just take it away from Lori because you don't like her. So Jeannie is saying, so what? Too bad about his distance, blah, blah. No, it's not a special privilege. Every prisoner, every person in jail should have the right to have private conversations with their attorney. Okay.
Well, I
That's a
think
big deal.
like especially on that comment, they're not. It's not that it's easier. They're not allowing him to come in because of COVID restrictions.
Right.
Law. They are not having visitors, so you have to be able to adjust for that. You can't just say, "Oh, you have an attorney. Sucks to be you that they can't get here." It's not that he doesn't want to drive the 4 hours. It's they're limiting the contact between the outside world and the people in the jail, and you do have to overcompensate for that, whether it's a telephone or a Zoom meeting or whatever they find fit. It's
Yep.
not about this specific lawyer or this specific prisoner. I'm talking this should be anybody. If they're cutting off contact with lawyers, they have to overcompensate for that because you have a right to do it.
Yep. And
If you
Sam
wait till
Costa.
COVID is gone, you have completely blown your right to a speedy trial.
Yep, like Sam says, all other inmates must also get a cell phone to be used when they need to meet with their lawyers. Anyone that asks for one that is being denied their right to meet privately with their lawyer should. I agree. They should find a way to do it so it's restricted, so the inmates don't have the phones on them around the clock, or the jail needs to come up with a safer way for the clients to meet with their attorneys. Like, why can we not have a room where they can meet and, I don't know, put plexiglass between them so they're not spreading germs or something? The jail has to do something to allow this to happen. And I
Yeah,
think
I don't think that this should be up to the inmate and their lawyer to figure this out.
I agree.
This should be done on the administrative end. Even if it's installing a phone that's not recorded, have a room where you can take a legit phone call that's not recorded is fine. Like,
Now,
I'm not saying you should get a cell phone.
okay, chat is still kind of up in arms. So, guys,
Yeah.
remember, normally, okay, when we're not dealing with a pandemic, there are private rooms in the jails for people to meet with their attorneys. Okay, normally they can do that all the time, but they can't do that right now because of COVID. All right, so
Right.
that's a problem. You have to understand we have to allow for that. You can't be crying out for justice and then not allow people to have their rights just because you don't like them.
I
All
know
right.
we
So,
like a lot of people are saying the plexiglass, but the problem is they're limiting who can come in. Yes, there are ways for them to meet, but if they are saying we don't want people outside coming in and bringing COVID to the prisoners,
yep.
then
And like
you're not getting that time. Yeah.
Sam says, don't the jails already have special rooms? Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is they're not allowing the lawyers to come into the jail because of the pandemic. Right. So right there, if the lawyers cannot come into the special rooms to meet with the inmates, then they have to provide another way that is private. Okay. Now, this is Laura, I'm sure this has come up with many other clients before. We're only
Oh
following
yeah.
this case. So, I mean, it's not like I scan all the jails to see all this stuff. But what we're saying is, well, Cookie says, I think if we were saying, if you give her a cell, you have to do it for all prisoners. I'm saying any prisoner that asks for it because they cannot meet with their attorneys privately, then yeah, they should
Yep.
find something.
That's
It
what I'm
doesn't
saying. It
have
should
to
be
be
on
a
the
cell
jail
phone.
end. Yeah, not on the lawyer's end. The jail
Right.
should be figuring this out.
Yep. And if the only way that they can allow private contact between inmates and their attorneys is a limited use cell phone, then great, do it. Whatever you have to do to get this done, it has to be done. It's a right. It is the law. And to deny her that, now think about this, guys, as angry as you are with me for saying this, if she is not afforded this right, do you not see that coming up as an appeal later on? We don't want them to have any grounds for appeals. We do not want that. Okay. And Sam is saying setting a precedent is what should not happen. We have to understand we're dealing with a pandemic. This is an unprecedented situation. This has never come up before.
And before anybody gets too mad, this is me and Awen. Like our opinion really doesn't count for much. Like what we say is not going to be what happens. It's just our opinion,
Yep.
and it's what limited. Like neither one of us have been to jail. Neither one of us have a lawyer. Like
Knock on wood.
Yet because we're in different states. That's probably the reason why.
Yeah.
But like if we're talking about this, think about what the other options are. And so, yeah, we're kind of agreeing with this. They are letting people out of jail because of COVID. Would you like to see them send her home on
Right.
an ankle bracelet? Because that's what a lot of people are doing. And that's, not something that we're talking about very much, but they are legitimately sending people home from jail. Some who are convicted, have been convicted. They've sent them home from jail and they're on the streets or they're on, an ankle bracelet because they can't handle COVID in the jail. I would much rather see Lori and Chad with a cell phone than an ankle bracelet.
Definitely. Definitely. And, we have to understand there's nothing wrong with Lori talking privately to Mark Means. It's not a problem. Every inmate in the country talks to their lawyer privately. Okay. So even if she can call Mark Means on a cell phone with limited use, that doesn't change anything. She's still in jail. She still has the charges. Nothing's going to change. Okay. The only thing that's changing is how they can do this because of the COVID restrictions put in place by the jail. So they need to figure out what to do here. It's
But I
not a
mean,
big deal. I don't
just
think it's that big of a deal.
if you saw some of the story, I mean, we don't talk about a lot of it, but the people that they're letting out of jail, they're letting out people who have been convicted of rape and all kinds of things. And if we're still waiting on major charges to hit Lori and Chad, a lawyer can't look at them and say, "Oh, more charges might be coming." If they legitimately weighed that, I mean, the crap that they're tagged with right now are 5-year charges. I mean, they could legitimately go home on an ankle bracelet.
Yep.
I mean, it's over destroying evidence. They don't have murder charges.
Mm-hmm.
So I would much rather see Lori with a cell phone than an ankle bracelet. And I'd
Yep.
say most people in her community would agree with that too.
Yep. And Jeannie Marie asks, well, who's going to pay for the services? It says right in the document that I just read to you that the cost will be incurred by the defendant. So Lori and her lawyer will have to pay for it. They're not asking the court to pay for it. And Jeannie, you think of the cost. I'm explaining to you right now. Mark Means is saying, hey, we'll pay for it and it'll be limited. So she can only use it to talk to me. She can't be walking around calling all her buddies with it. Why is that not a fair thing? I think that's fair. And any other inmate who asks for a similar situation in a similar situation, some jails are allowing visits, some aren't. This one is not. So in this situation, I don't see it as a bad deal. I really don't. And the main reason that I'm for this is so that we do not see an appeal later on, a post-conviction appeal, where he said, hey,
We weren't ready for trial. Yeah.
Yep. It's not our fault. And
but,
do you want Lori to get out on an appeal because she couldn't talk to her lawyer? Absolutely not. I say give her whatever she wants to talk to him.
We're looking at this. COVID has been around now for a year. Why haven't the jails figured something else out? I think it's kind of stupid that we've got lawyers that have to appeal for this kind of thing. I wish that the jail would set something up, even if it is a phone in a room that's not recorded. I mean, they could do that. It doesn't have to be cell phones, but they do have to. There has to be a way to communicate with the lawyer. That's no matter who you are.
Feeding it, we don't know because the jail certainly doesn't release that information. You could find other inmates and ask their lawyers and see. But in this situation, we do know that Lori and her lawyer have not been able to have private, privileged conversations because of the restrictions put in place by the jail. And Mark Means has been talking about this for a year. And we don't like Mark Means. We don't like Lori, but this is still a problem because if she gets that I think that would be a valid grounds for appeal because she's not being afforded her actual right to prepare for the trial, and that could just get bad. Deb says, why can't she get an hour a week at the lawyer's office, transport there and back?
No.
That would be way more expensive than this, and plus we don't want her out of the jail.
Plus that would spread more COVID. Good God, if she got COVID while she was at the lawyer's office.
Presuve asks, I don't think they will let her go home or let her have a cell phone. How does everyone else speak to their lawyers? That we don't know. We don't know what's going on in this jail. All we know is this one particular instance because Mark Means is telling us. Now, if you look at the pictures, let me share this. This should come up on your screen. This is how Mark Means has been meeting with Lori. He's in a room. Okay, he's got his laptop, his briefcase, and that little jail phone there. You see that on your screen? That is not a private phone line. Okay, and also he shows you that there are video cameras. Where is it? Somewhere there's a video camera up in that corner up there. That'll come up on your screen in a second. That's not, you can't do that. You can't. This is why they are privileged conversations. Any inmate has the right to be privately conversing with their lawyer with no cameras, no recording devices, no audio recording, nothing. That's a right that every single person in this country has, even all of you in chat. If you ever get arrested, that is your right. Okay? The jail cannot violate the rights of the inmates. I mean, imagine if there's an innocent person in jail, right? And this innocent person has to go to court and they have to get ready and their defense lawyer has to know all this stuff. It has to be private. Everyone has that right. So even people we don't like. So I'm kind of all for this because if it keeps her in jail and keeps them from being able to appeal a conviction later on, do it. Give her the limited use cell phone. I'd like to see it maybe held by the officers at the jail and they hand it to her when she goes to one private room to make her call. She gives it right back and goes back to her cell. Something like that. I think that would be great.
The cell phone still doesn't fix the problem of the documents. Was it this case or was it Letitia's case that they were already arguing about? They didn't have enough access to discuss documents because they weren't being able to be passed back and forth. Mm-hmm. That Letitia?
I'm not sure which case that was.
I don't remember, but I know it came up. The cell phone still doesn't fix that, but
Yep. So yeah, a lot of people, I've been watching the chats and other YouTubes and the community in general, and people are just up in arms about this. And I don't think it's actually a big deal. I really don't. And we got to keep our eye on the prize. The prize is Lori getting convicted and not appealing it and staying in jail for a very long time. So appeals are something we don't want to see. So that's why I'm for this. But that brings us to another conversation that we wanted to talk about. Jess and I were talking after the last hearing that we watched. Remember that hearing, the Zoom hearing, where Pryor and Means called their expert witnesses?
Day 2.
Right. And one of them was testifying under oath on the Zoom hearing, sitting in his living room, and somebody knocked on the door. Oh, excuse me, Your Honor, let me go answer the door. Okay. And I'm thinking, what? You don't do that when you're on the stand, technically. You can't just get up and go get a drink or whatever. And then the second expert witness had a green screen behind him that was bad, but had his kids interrupting and dogs barking. And I'm like, this is just incredible. So that led us to a discussion about how these Zoom hearings can be impacting the course of justice and what we might see from that coming up in a year. Now, Jess, what do you think of all this Zoom stuff?
Well, when we had the conversation, I said, you want to talk about an appeal nightmare, which was what the whole hearing was about. Did they want to remove Wood from being able to prosecute the case or blah, 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 and appeals? I said, I have a feeling in a couple of years, probably not anytime in the real near future, but 2 or 3 years down the road, when some of these bigger cases do go to court, I bet you they are going to appeal, because these Zoom hearings and meetings and stuff are so completely informal and lax that they get thrown out. I mean, there's a whole psychology of going to a courtroom. If you're a witness, if you're, a defendant, whatever, you walk into a courtroom, you go through metal detectors, you're surrounded by officers who have loaded guns. I mean, you're not going to pull nothing out of a courtroom, chances are, unless you're crazy and are willing to die for it. You sit there, you're sworn in front of a judge, in front of a jury, whatever. You sweat a little. You want to be really precise in what you say. You're limited to what you have in front of you, to work with. You have to have permission to have papers, reports, whatever you're testifying about. We got halfway through that one guy's thing and found out they weren't even working with the same transcription of the whatever you call it, the recording. I just think it's so informal. People are throwing a green screen up. Hell, you don't know if these people have pants on. I mean,
Yep.
to be real honest. What's you're just kicked back and you're comfortable in your office or your living room, and I mean, what's making you not be just saying whatever, And if they find you in contempt of court, what's the judge going to say? Oh, bailiff, go get an Uber, go to their house and arrest them. I mean, that's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things that struck me most about the Zoom hearing was imagining yourself walking into court. It's a very imposing thing to be in a courtroom and be a witness, because you do have the armed bailiffs in the room. You've got the judge, the big bench. You've got all these people, and it gives you a sense of seriousness and the weight of what you're doing. You're sitting in your jammies in your bed talking on a Zoom hearing. It doesn't feel the same. You don't have that feeling of, oh, I better be careful because I could be in big trouble here if I lie or something. So I see the Zoom hearings now, the hearings that are just pretrial motions and stuff like that. I don't think that's such a big deal, but I can't imagine a trial being done this way.
No.
Because imagine, I mean, even the last hearing that we saw was just a hearing. What if somebody was found in contempt of court based on their testimony? What's the judge going to say? Oh, just sit still. I'm sending the bailiff to come get you at your house. Just hang tight. How does that work?
And I mean, they interrupted each other. They talked over each other. And I mean, a lot of that would not happen in a courtroom. There was quite a few times they talked over the judge, and you can almost go, oh, well, it was a technical problem. Maybe they didn't notice they were doing that. I mean, shoot, how do you know they're not checking their email and like drop shipping crap from Amazon, grocery shopping while they're sitting there? I mean, are they really paying attention?
Well, like what Hot Scorpio Ruse just said, it did look in the hearing like Mark Means and Pryor were texting each other. They kept looking at their phones and playing with their phones. You can't do that if you're on a stand. Well, of course, they were the lawyers. They weren't testifying. But one of the witnesses had piles of papers on his desk, and the judge asked, what are you looking at? You can't do that when you're actually testifying. That's why anytime there's an evidence introduced where they want someone to read from a report, they have to show it to the judge. They have to make sure both counsels have it. They have to have it approved and entered into the record. Then they show it to the witness.
Yeah.
right? It's not like the witness can come in with all of their notes and just spread them out in front of them and do that. You can't do that,
But what
right?
we were
So,
in hour 2 of the first day when we found out that the psychologist was reading from a different copy of the transcript that didn't
yep.
even match up. I mean, that is unheard of.
hmm And that's another big issue. When you're sitting in a courtroom, you have all of the evidence that you need right there in the courtroom. So if you have a photo, you pick it up, you enter it into the record, you show the other counsel, you put it up on the screen. There's no questioning, well, which copy are you looking at? Which one are you looking at? No, it's all right there. And that's not something that you can really do in a Zoom hearing. And they even had that problem. Mark me was like, "Oh, I guess I can send you a link to the PDF or da-da." They weren't even sure how to do that. So these Zoom hearings, I think, are becoming an issue.
And you would change the way you. I thought the psychologist, just using this hearing as an example, I thought the psychologist was really demeaning.
hmm
I thought he really spoke down to Rob Wood and stuff. There's an element of psychology, like if they were sitting in a courtroom and he was on the stand and had legitimate eye contact with Rob Wood and was sitting right there, would he have said the same things in the same tone of voice?
Right.
Just being in a room with somebody, not just a camera is on you. It's real easy to talk a big game when there's nobody really looking at you and you're comfortable.
Definitely. So there's all kinds of issues that we're seeing with the justice system right now. Not the least of which is that so many cases are on hold. Right, there have been so many delays in Gannon Stouck's case because Letitia couldn't get in for her second uh, psych eval because of COVID and all this other stuff. So we're seeing so many delays, which is irritating, but we're also seeing issues with the actual practices now. And there are going to be appeals.
Yeah.
You can put money on it if you're a betting person. There will be appeals based on these things going forward. How long is this case going to go on? Because once we finally do get to trial, which is scheduled for June, I don't think that's going to happen. But there will be appeals
I don't think
afterwards.
that the hearing that we just watched is over. I think it wouldn't surprise me if Mark Means and Pryor reappealed the same exact case. It wouldn't surprise me if the judge had ruled the other way and removed Rob Wood. I think he would have appealed it
Yep.
and had grounds because that hearing was a disaster.
hmm Now, a lot of people are saying in chat, Scott Reich said this is the normal way to meet with your client. I'm not Scott Reich. I don't care what Scott Reich has to say. Um,
Mm-mm.
this image that we see, this may be a normal way, but they do have a right to ask for privileged private communications with any attorney. And any attorney will say, yes, you have the right to talk to me privately with no one overhearing it. And if Mark Means wants to push that issue on Lori's behalf, he has the right to do it. We may not like it, but they have the right. You would like it if you were in jail and you wanted to meet with your attorney privately. So we have to make sure that our civil rights as a whole, as a society, are not thrown in the garbage just because of the pandemic. And so I think the jail has some work to do.
So, what is the normal way? What does he mean by the normal way to meet with clients? If he can't get in a room with his client, that's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you, Scott Rush is not calling his clients on the payphones at the jail that are automatically recorded.
Right.
That's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're in a room where it's being video and audio recorded, that's not normal. So, it could be different where he's at in Colorado. Granted, he's in another state. They might be handling it different. But what's going on right now with Lori and Chad in Idaho is not normal.
No, now we
Not
don't know what's going on in Chad's jail. He's in a different jail. We
right.
haven't heard any filings like this or any peep of this from Pryor, so they may have a different setup there. So I don't know, maybe Pryor will bring it up. But Mark Means has been going on this for a year. And I do know that the Zoom hearings, he's not a fan of those either. So I expect to see a lot of appeals unless they can get this taken care of quickly. And I hope they do, because I don't want Lori to have appeals. I don't want her convictions overturned. I don't. I want her to stay in jail forever.
I think this COVID, just in regard to the judicial system, 1 year of COVID, I think is really going to do a number on the judicial system for at least a decade.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're still going to be dealing with repercussions of what happened just this past year, not even counting what's going to happen this year, at least a decade.
Yep.
Because I don't see Lori going to trial in June. I'll be shocked if she goes to trial next year.
Yep.
I know that's not what people want to hear, but I mean, look at Tim Jones Jr. He got 4 years. It took him 4 years to take a slam dunk. I mean, it really was a slam dunk case on him that he did it. He admitted to it, but it still took them 4 years working full time, no COVID, to take him to trial. This trial is messy. There's a
Yep.
lot of moving parts, and it's behind because no matter what we know that's going on, there's stuff that's being investigated or being pushed off because they don't have the manpower or they can't do it because of COVID right now. It's
Yep. A
going to
lot of
be a
people are
lot.
saying, Zoom isn't hard to use. No,
Well, it's
Zoom isn't
exactly
hard to
that's the
use.
problem.
But it's not that Zoom is too difficult. It's that using Zoom for some hearings and some witness testimony does not do what the courtroom does. It doesn't prevent them from looking at notes and things they're not supposed to be looking at. It doesn't prevent them from, looking down at their cell phone and texting the lawyer while they're testifying. You may see their eyes go down, but you may not see the phone on the camera. So it doesn't show the court everything that they need to see during a hearing like this. And it doesn't impose the weight of their testimony on the witness who's sitting in their living room. So Zoom hearings, I can see them appealing all of them. And that, I don't want to see that. But we do need to adapt. The
I mean, if
courts
you
and the jails all need to adapt to the pandemic. And I don't think we're adapting correctly. And I
no,
see a lot of cases maybe just getting tossed because of this. So that's what I'm concerned about.
I mean, if you're saying like the argument was about the cell phones, you didn't want to set this precedent. If you're saying that these Zoom hearings are okay, that's going to set a precedent. If somebody came and picked you up because you were framed for murder, and I mean completely innocent, they picked you up and they said, well, really, we figured out during COVID these Zoom hearings are much more efficient for cost and scheduling. Let's just go that way to save a whole lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and completely started doing hearings on Zoom and you were convicted, would you be satisfied that the judge never had to look you in the eye? That you never met with your lawyer in person? That everything was done over Zoom that's going on now? People were reading reports about you, doing medical, like asking you medical questions through Zoom and all that. Hell no. That would not be okay for any of us if we were innocent. And we have to hold the same regard for people who technically Lori is in jail, and until she's convicted, as far as the judicial system goes, she's innocent.
Yeah.
I know we look at these people as innocent and guilty, and we all know Lori has done something to these people. But as far as the judicial system goes, she's innocent. And we have to give her the same exact rights that we give actually innocent people. And I would not be I'll be real honest, I'll be personal. I've been fighting a disability case now going on for 3 years. They have put me off and I've had to do my case over a telephone. They won't even give me a Zoom hearing. I have no idea what my lawyer looks like, what my judge looked like, any of the other people, and they have put it off now for 2.5 years. And it just now got completed last week. And I have screamed and cried and pitched a fit over how unfair it was because they just go through the motions and like pass you on, and you don't have a minute to interrupt to say something. You don't know if it's your turn. Like, it's so aggravating when it's you. It might look easy. These hearings might look like they're going okay, but I guarantee there's times that people wish they had said something after it was over, and you don't get a chance to go back and do that.
Yep. Now think about all these issues we've been talking about in regards to someone like Brendan Dassey. Most of us here know the Brendan Dassey case, the Steve Avery case, and most of us would bet everything we have in the bank that Brendan Dassey is innocent. Okay, we love Brendan. We want him to be freed. We've been fighting for years to get him out of jail, and I have really warm feelings about Brendan Dassey, and it's horrifying how long he's been in jail for something he didn't do. Okay. Now imagine, apply all of this to Brendan. Suppose that Brendan has a big appeal coming up where he could actually get out of jail, but he can't meet with his lawyer privately because of COVID. Imagine how angry we would be on his behalf because his rights are being violated once again, right? We would all be up in arms about that. So apply that same logic of his rights even to people you don't like. And maybe you can understand a little bit where Means is coming from on this.
Shoot, what if it had been Skylar Richardson?
Mm,
I mean, that could have gone 10 shades of ugly for her if this had been done on Zoom,
yep,
you know?
yep. So we have to, it's really hard in a case like this because I'm sure most of us would just say, lock her up, throw away the key, we're done. We don't need to hear from her anymore. It's over, and we probably wouldn't be wrong for thinking that, but that's not how our justice system works. And if we're going to allow the justice system to violate the rights of certain people, then we are all at risk. And that's something that concerns me greatly. So, but at the same time, if you think about Lori's case, right? I can't think of a single plausible explanation that would ever make her not guilty. There's nothing. There's nothing. So let her have a cell phone. Who cares? It's not going to change anything because she has no way to get out of these charges that anybody can see. She really doesn't. So who cares? Give her the cell phone. Make it limited so she can only talk to Mark Means on it. Don't let her walk around the jail calling people. That's crazy. But, that's how I feel about this. And the motion to compel hearing on the 17th is only going to be about the discovery. They're not going to talk about this. I don't know if this is actually going to have a hearing. We haven't heard from the court yet, but if there is one, we're definitely going to watch it because I think I would love to hear what the judge has to say about this.
Yeah. If anything, good Lord, he didn't want to talk very much. He let Pryor and Means do all the flapping their jaws during the last 2 days of hearings. That was ridiculous. I really hope they get a change of venue and we get a new judge. That's my opinion.
Yep.
Bring back the other guy that looks like Harry Potter.
Yeah, Judge Edens. I was really surprised during the last hearing how Pryor's demeanor towards the judge. I can't imagine how the judge didn't say something to him like, watch your step, buddy.
Yeah.
Who do you think you're talking to? But maybe I was going to say maybe that would have been different if it was a hearing in a courtroom. But no, because Pryor was just like that in the preliminary hearing. That's just his.
That was a different judge, though. Yeah.
Yep.
But you wonder kind of the psychology about it. Like on the Zoom hearing, they all have the same footing. Do you know what I mean? They're all on a screen. They all have the same little box. There's kind of a psychology that goes into walking in a courtroom and the judge sits above everybody.
Mm-hmm.
The person on the stand is above the people that are on the floor.
Yep.
It's kind of weird when you're paying. Well, I can't see half the time anyway, so I'm looking at the squares like, okay, who's talking? Unless I know the voices by now, but Yeah.
Roxy Cole brings up an interesting point. She said in chat, I doubt Lori has many friends to call if she could. Now, she can call people. She can use the jail phone to call her friends whenever she wants. They have to pay for it and all of that stuff. But all of those calls are recorded. And they're recorded in case she calls, say, Summer or something, says, oh, man, I'm really sorry I killed the kids because now I got to go to jail. Boom, that's recorded. Guess what? That can be used against her. Okay, so she can call whoever she wants, and it is recorded. The difference here is that she cannot talk to her lawyer when that's recorded. That's against our civil rights. So that's what they're fighting for.
And my goodness, if somebody was in, a lot of people said, oh, well, they can delete it. But knowing how big of a case this is, if you were somebody who wanted to make some money and didn't have very many morals, and you could slip out a recording of her saying, yeah, I did it to her lawyer that wasn't supposed to be recorded.
Yep.
You're screwed. I mean, no matter where that goes, even if it goes really, really public, nobody's going to forget that.
Oops.
Oh, there's Paul. And that's the sound I needed right there.
That's my cell phone.
What if that got out, I like it. Dun, dun,
Mute that. Fuzzy Doxy raises a good point about being a juror. there's no way you can have a trial over Zoom. The jurors need to be sitting there and present, because imagine if you're on Zoom as a juror, you're just going to mute your mic and run to the bathroom if you need to
Shoot,
go,
yeah, I would not
or
be
go
dressed
get a
for that.
snack. Be sitting there snacking and doing whatever you want. Yeah, it'd be very comfortable, but you
Can you
cannot run a trial
imagine?
like that.
We would be sitting there. We would have a face mask on, some fuzzy slippers and pajamas, some popcorn, some Mountain Dew. We would call and get some Grubhub delivered whenever we felt like it.
I'd be playing
We
like World of Warcraft or something on another screen,
No
like,
joke. I would be shopping on Amazon. I'd be tracking my Sephora order. Yeah, there ain't no way. And every guy that was on that juror box wouldn't have pants on, and you know it.
Yep. Green Eggs and Ham says, just sanitize the private room before and after the use of it. And, I agree with you, but that's up to the
But
jail to do that. And the jail is not doing that now. They're just not allowing the visits. So what we need to be angry at is not Lori or Mark Means or the cell phone. We need to be angry at the jail for not providing the proper resources that their inmates need. And I hope the judge can do something. I know that the judge cannot call the jail and be like, you have to do this or whatever, but something needs to be done, because there are innocent people in jail too. There really are. And they all need their rights protected.
this hearing shouldn't be about Lori and Mark Means. This really should be going above them. To be
Yep, it's a
honest,
much bigger issue.
this should be a regulation issue at the jail. The Department of Prisons or somebody should be handling this, and not a year after COVID. I mean, this has been a problem for a year.
Yep, Big Red says they can ask the recording to be turned off. He is asking for that. Yep,
They
and
did. We already had a hearing.
there was a hearing back last year. It was
Yeah.
a bond reduction hearing, and I will get a link to that and put it in the description. We did it over on Denise's channel. Mark Means brought this before the court. I think it was like last March or April. So it's been a long
It's been
time.
a while, yeah.
And he said, listen, our phone calls are being recorded. Rob Wood even said, yes, Your Honor, the calls were recorded, but somebody may have listened to them, but I didn't hear them. So that's a problem. That is actually a big problem.
And
So
all they had to go on was the people at the jail saying, "Oh, those were deleted," and you're like, "Well, how do we know that?" Well, because they said they deleted them. You're like, "Oh, that's not good."
Yep.
That's not good.
So this has been ongoing for a year, and you can bet your bottom dollar that Mark Means is going to file an appeal after the fact based on this issue. So if they can get it fixed now, at least we can minimize that risk later on. Because if Lori got out of jail after being convicted because she didn't have private talks with a lawyer, I will be so angry. You cannot even imagine how angry I will be. So they need to fix this like now, immediately. Ooh.
Yeah. This whole COVID thing, I mean, so many things have come up. My gosh, like not even about a certain case, but I don't know, like we just went stupid. It feels like the people that are in charge had just went stupid when COVID came out. Like, well, now we don't even know how to run anything. The fact that a CPS stopped doing house visits because of COVID, that irritates me to no end. Like, there's all kinds of mandated reporters that were like, "Oh, there's a pandemic going on.
Yeah,
We
well, let's
can't do
talk
our
about
jobs."
my story with that. About, was it 8 or 9 months ago, I called Adult
Yeah.
Protective Services because I had a cousin who was in a very bad way. His live-in health carer died. So he was all on his own. He was not mentally competent enough to manage his medications because he was on quite a few. He lived in a hoard type situation, like the TV show Hoarders. His house looked like that. And he was not well. So I called Adult Protective Services to go and take care of him. Because of the pandemic, they never did a house visit. She talked to him on the phone, and 1 or 2 phone calls, he may sound perfectly normal and reasonable, but it's only when you talk to him for a couple hours every day that you see he just says the same stories over and over and over. One time may sound decent, but when you start to hear it and hear the repetition and all of this other stuff, you realize he's not all there. So she refused, and I called her many times. She refused to do a house visit, and he is dead now.
It's ridiculous. I mean, you're talking about I don't understand this at all because I mean, yeah, he's an adult, but you're talking about a person who's being abused. If they are in a
Mhm.
situation where somebody's supposed to be taking care of them, and I know what you're talking about because you sent me the pictures and stuff. That man was being abused, and you are
Mhm.
supposed to be able to trust that when you call Child Protective Services or Adult Protective Services, they are going to take you seriously.
Yep.
Now that is your personal story. How many stories are there that we haven't heard
Mhm.
that happened all year with kids,
Yep.
families that have 2 or 3 kids, and they didn't get checked on? And if you want to start a conversation with me about who is an essential worker, CPS, like that's an essential worker. If you're telling me the people that work at Walmart are essential workers, but the protection agencies for people across the country aren't, when your kids are not going to school, they're not going to church, and now Child Protective Services isn't even going to check on them, how
Mhm.
are we expecting that after the dust settles after this that we're not going to find tens of thousands of dead kids? And I'm not being hyperbolic and I'm not blowing that out of the water. That is
Yep.
not an exaggeration. I'm telling you right now, if there is a parent, I would hate to know the number. Any of you guys that don't know who I am, my mom opened and ran a domestic violence shelter. I know what I'm talking about. I've dealt with CPS, I've dealt with sheriff's department, I've dealt with protective orders, I've dealt with families at 3 o'clock in the morning when we had to go pick them up on the side of the road with nothing. I know what I'm talking about. People being locked up from COVID and these agencies not taking care of them is a problem that we're not dealing with yet.
Yep, like Sugar Butt Williams says, just like the two missing boys, Orrin and Orson West, which is a case we've all been watching. They should have been seen by CPS. Two of those children were foster children, not the two
Uh,
missing ones. But they should have had home visits. The house should have been inspected. All of these things. Did that not happen because of COVID? And now these two boys are missing.
Now,
That
just
is a
answer the
giant
question.
problem.
Okay, people don't think those kids were ever at that house, which is like 6 months ago, right? 3 months ago, whatever. They don't think the kids were ever at the house where they've been reported missing from. We don't know why, if that's the case, why they were reported missing. What if they never reported them missing? These kids were homeschooled, adopted, and knew none of their neighbors, and their family are hours away. What if they never reported them missing?
Hmm.
Would anybody know that 2 kids were gone? And if you're telling me that's not happening across the country, you're crazy. I mean, you are flat out in denial. If you think there aren't parents during COVID that pulled their kids out of school or shut down or whatever, lost their job or did their job from home, have been extremely stressed out, have no resources, no services, had eyes on these families. All they had to do was move across the state line, never record that they had kids. There's nothing. There are going to be tens of thousands of kids that we find out are missing, which really means that they're dead or have been sold on the black market or something ridiculous that you don't even want to think about.
Yeah.
But I'm
Pre-Sue,
telling you, it's going to be crazy.
Pre-Sue asks, are the other children with their birth parents? All the
No,
only information that we have from law enforcement is that the other four children are in protective custody. They're not going to tell us where or with who for their own safety, but they are not
they
with the parents.
they did clarify that they are not with family, which tells you something else really big.
Mm.
That came from the police chief. He said that they have not, and that's from the what is his name, Bayong Wang, I think is the reporter that we're following.
Yep.
He asked, "Is that are they have they been placed with other family members?" Which is what CPS would normally do, and he said, "Absolutely not. They are all in foster care.
Yep.
None of them are with family."
Yeah, there were six children total. Two of them are biological children of the two adoptive parents. Two of them were foster children, and the two that are missing were adopted, Orrin and Orson West. Those are the two that are missing. The other four are in protective custody, not in the adoptive parents' custody. All right, so they're safe and they're being looked after, and that's all we need to know as far as those four children are concerned. But I didn't bring up the the West case so we can go on to conspiracy theory drive, because I don't like that.
I
But
don't. There's nothing. Since our last talk, there's nothing that's come out. I don't want to talk about that case.
yeah.
We don't know anything else.
Unfortunately, we don't. I do hope that they're found. I hope that they're safe, although that seems to fly in the face of logic, unfortunately. But we'll keep an eye on it and see what comes up.
You want me to tell you about the local case?
Yes.
My local case? I
Yes, that's a
guarantee
good
you,
one.
most people probably haven't heard this, and this is absolutely ridiculous. So I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee. This summer, a little boy was found roaming the neighborhood, and he was naked. Okay. Fortunately, he was come upon by a police officer. So the guy asked, where did you come from? Where's your home? Where's your parents? Blah, blah, blah. So the boy showed him where he lived. The officer took him back home. This kid was small. Like, they did not believe he was school age or anything. He was small. So they walked into the house. They found out these were foster parents who were completely milking the system. Okay, they've been taking in kids like crazy for the checks, whatever. That kid escaped from the basement in a cage. The other cage that was in the basement was empty. I think he was the only kid left in the house that wasn't their biological child. I think they had a teenager in the house too. I'd have to look at it again. The other kid that was in the cage had recently died, and they found her in the backyard.
Didn't they
So,
find more than just her in the backyard?
no. So then they start digging into the parents, and they realize that they moved a couple of years ago. They sold their house to an adult son, so they went to that house. They have been taking in kids for years. They found another child buried in the backyard of that house. It was the same exact situation. That kid had been dead, and they had been collecting checks on him for 3 years. Nobody had laid eyes on him in 3 years from CPS, but they were still paying these parents. There's no telling how many kids they've abused. But I mean, they've had 2 different properties where they have found dead kids in the backyard and in the basement. And that was this summer in Knoxville. I mean, you talk about a nightmare case. It's a nightmare.
And this is my issue with CPS. We never hear. Maybe there are stories, we just don't hear them. But every story we hear about CPS is either something like the Tim Jones Jr. case, where CPS
Yep.
was involved and didn't do anything. They knew the problems, but they let it continue, and all 5 children were killed by the parent. That's crazy. And then we hear stories like this, where CPS doesn't even check in on the kids, never lays eyes on them, and they go missing or end up dead. Or we hear stories of innocent parents having their children taken away for ridiculous reasons that aren't even true and have to fight for years to get them back. We never hear really good stories about how CPS came in and helped a family or helped these children or got everything squared away. We never hear those.
Nope. I know we're talking about what COVID has done. CPS was broken well before the pandemic, but this has really exacerbated it. And I'm hoping that these nightmares that are coming out make somebody go, whoa, we really need to do something. Something is wrong. There's got to be something that happens because this is ridiculous.
Yep. And
Way too many.
if you want to explore some of the CPS issues on Netflix, there's that documentary. What's it called? The Gonzalez case. Oh, let me
Which
look
one
it
is
up.
that?
The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez on Netflix. That is a horrifying case of CPS gone wrong.
Is that the one where they
Horrifying.
fed into the pigs? No.
No.
What's the one that John Crimes was going to do that was so awful?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. That was a nightmare case too.
Thomas Valva case in New York. That one was devastating.
That's still going on.
I have a special needs child. My son is autistic, and just when I first heard about that case, I about lost it. That is just horrifying. And the dad in that case was a police officer too. So, we need to do something about the system. What? I don't know. I don't know how to start it. It's going to take a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of education. It's going to take a lot of effort. But we need to start putting these kids first and calling out CPS. And, I'm wrestling with what I should do about Adult Protective Services out of Connecticut for dropping the ball and letting my cousin die.
No
If
kidding.
she had done one home visit, they would have removed him.
Yeah.
They would have removed him, and he would have been in assisted care, and he would still be alive today.
Now, I don't know about that with COVID going on. I don't
Well,
know.
right, he might have gotten sick,
But my
but
God, that should have been the option, though.
mm-hmm.
So we pay taxes for.
Yep.
But I mean, if you just look at the cases that we've covered, not here, but like on Paul's channel, all of those cases, CPS was involved. The Groves trial, the Rosenbaums was complete. The Rosenbaums should have never had those two girls.
Mm-hmm.
They completely let politics get in the way on that one.
Yep.
Because of who Jennifer was. Oh, we don't have to do background checks on her. Well, did you know she was raised in foster care and group homes? Really, she should have never been allowed to bring those girls home. And they would, Layla would still be alive. But the Groves trial, the McNabb Bell trial, CPS was involved, even though that baby was, 2 weeks old?
Mm-hmm.
CPS was already involved there, and they dropped the ball. I mean, any of these big kid cases, you always find that CPS is involved, and they didn't handle it. And it's killing our kids, literally. Killing our kids.
Yep. So there's a lot of issues going on because of the pandemic. The one that we're certainly focusing on is the issues that are coming up now in the Vallow Daybell case. My big concern, as I said earlier, was just I don't want to see appeals. I don't want to see Lori or Chad get away on an appeal because their civil rights are being violated because of the pandemic. So we need the jail to step up and do something. I'm sure we can come up with a way for inmates to meet with their attorneys safely during the pandemic, but still privately. It can't be that hard. It really can't. So I hope that happens. We're going to wait and see what happens. There is no hearing scheduled yet for this particular issue. There is one on February 17th. So you can join me here. We'll watch it live. That is the motion to compel hearing where Mark Means is fighting with Rob Wood about discovery. That if Rob Wood comes forth with whatever he's asking for, we may not have a hearing, but I will let you know. So stay tuned for that. Also coming up this week, we're going to be doing some new stuff for channel members and Patreon members. Going to diving back into Toxic Bliss. We've got some live streams coming. So if you are a channel member or a Patreon, please keep up on that stuff. You'll see notifications coming up this week. It's going to be kind of cool. I'm very excited about that. And Jess is going to probably be joining me for some of that too. I hope.
Yay.
So
Put
we
me
got a
on the
lot going on.
spot.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Shoot, that's what I tell anybody that does it, like know us from Paul's channel. We really butted heads for a while until she did Toxic Bliss, and then we were like, were we married to the same person?
Yep.
Like we really bonded over that trauma.
Mm-hmm. We are
So
trauma
yeah,
bonded forever.
I can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah. All right. So stay tuned. There is more coming. Any news that comes up in Vallow case, if it is actual news, I will come to you either live or make a video on it right away. I'm trying to do maybe like once a week because there's really nothing going on. But as soon as there is, I'll let you know. So make sure you ring the notification bell. Any hearings that are broadcast, I will live stream them right here so we can watch them together and talk about it as it happens because I think that's fun. Sam says, why Rob Wood didn't supply Means with that piece of evidence boggles my mind. Mine too, Sam. I mean, why not just send a copy of the hard drive to both of them? Unless he thought they were going to share, but he shouldn't make assumptions like that. But I'm sure we'll hear about his response during that hearing.
Kind of wonder if maybe this is Means, like I've already asked him for it. I'm just going to document this as a paper trail because I'm still going to try to have him removed. That's a thought I just had.
I don't doubt for a second that they will try to get Rob Wood removed again somehow. I don't doubt that. So it could just be that he's just laying more groundwork. But hopefully we'll have a good hearing with lots of fireworks to watch on the 17th because this pandemic thing has got me bored. So I could use a good fireworks kind of hearing or trial or something.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. All right. So join us in Discord if you want to talk about this or any of the other topics we talk about. There are like 100 channels in our Discord server because we talk about everything under the sun. So feel free to join us there. There's a link in the description where you can join. You can follow me on Patreon. You can follow me on channel membership. do a lot of private content there. Jess has a channel herself. Hopefully one of the
I
mods could link
do.
to that, called Know Better, Do Better with Jess. A lot of really positive, uplifting, great stuff over there. So follow Jess over there. Eventually she's going to be doing live streams, I hope, over there.
Oh
We'll
gosh.
see. It'll be fun.
We'll
And
see.
of course, Paul, follow Paul. And I tried to get him to come with us tonight, but he's getting ready for bed because he has to work early. But Paul will make an appearance soon too. And that's it. That's all that we got. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate the support. Fuzzy Doxy, thank you for the super chat. I'm sorry I missed that earlier. I just saw it now because I was tabbed in another thing. But thank you so much. And thank you all for being here. I appreciate the support. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything else about the case that you want to talk more about, and we can do some research and get into it. So, Jess, any parting words for our lovely audience?
Have a good week. I hope you guys don't get bogged down with all this snow I hear is coming. I'm hoping it misses me.
Yep, stay tuned.
Man,
There's
no
big.
snow.
I don't mean stay tuned. I meant stay safe. There's a
Yep.
big storm over the northern part of the country. So please stay safe from that, everyone. And we will talk to you soon. Oh, Emily, thank you so much. See, I didn't see them. I was in StreamYard and it doesn't show me them. I'm sorry for missing that. Thank you,
Bye,
Emily.
Emily.
Appreciate
Bye,
it.
Emily. I haven't seen Emily in a while.
I know. I hope you guys are all doing well. All right, I will talk to you all soon. If you want to come play Path of Exile with me, come join me in Discord. It's going to be great. So I'll talk to you all soon. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.